I look like I'm old. You have yours on, I don't. This is okay.
And this is not a spring chicken. We're talking today about something that seems kind of like a deja vu when it comes to foreclosures.
No, it's got to do with the Democratic Party has long been known as the party of unforeseen circumstances. They basically, as Hubert Humphrey, once said, the Democratic Party will continually form a firing squad and shoot one another in the foot. They form a firing squad in a circle and then shoot one another in the foot. That was how he did it. So, but they've done it again.
Now, if you're wondering, it's like, why is this deja vu? It's like, do you remember when they were talking about giving all these people their homes for free?
Yeah.
And everybody got upset because they're like, well, how can you just decide to give people their homes for free? What about the rest of the people that are working and they're having a hard time paying for their bills?
Well, the people of this nation are compassionate and they want to help other people. Well, as the one newsman said yesterday, who's upside down on his place by a considerable amount and only working part-time, my compassion stops when I can't get food to put in my kid's mouth. Yeah, and they're having trouble paying. People with money are having trouble paying the rent. I mean, we know a place, we know a place that basically should be going for $3-4 million that's going on a short sale for $1.5 million, but because they don't have the money. And this is the way it is. I mean, people that basically went through the process. Remember, Obama basically thinks illegal aliens should be let into the country also. His compassion knows no end when it comes to people who vote for him. But
you mean the illegal aliens that can, let's see, they can become citizens, they can get a free education, and they can get a free house.
And don't have to pay for any of it. Because what happened was the Obama people didn't realize that the people, first of all, they didn't realize there was going to be such an outcry for people that basically, including the people that were in his own cabinet that basically barely afford to pay their house rents, pissed off about giving the thing. So then he went to mortgage modification because I own all the banks. I can tell people what to do in the banks. Well, the problem is you couldn't find any way to qualify 90% of the people that own those homes that are in trouble. They don't make enough money. If you work for McDonald's, you cannot live in a house that costs you $1.5 million. The payments are like $1,000 more a month than you make at McDonald's. They own cars, they own furniture. You say, well, how in the world do these people afford it? Well, because they were put in on basically, they knew that what happened was that you could just simply put the people in the home, use it like it was a leased home for a while, and then kick them out, and then you resell the home.
Oh, is that what they were planning on doing?
And then what you do is you put somebody else in the home, again, that basically can't afford it, because the Democrats are the ones that created the program of just get them into the homes that will keep the housing market going. Las Vegas is an example of keep the housing market going. I'll guarantee you, when they were building homes, tract homes in Los Angeles, we lived across the street from where they were building tract homes, and it seems to have for sale signs on them every day, and we can't figure out because we can't sell the things we're building, and what we're building are less than what they're building, and they're like on 2.5 acres of ground, so why can't we sell them? And then we found out because they're selling them to people who are building the homes. Everybody that worked on a subdivision had bought a home. And that's basically what it is, because they figure, well, we'll go from this subdivision into another one, and we'll keep building homes. The problem runs is when you run out of the people that can buy the homes, and then you lose your job, and then you lose your home, and let's say Las Vegas is an example of it. Las Vegas is filled full of homes that were sold to people that were working on the homes.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
And when they lost their jobs, they couldn't pay for the homes, so you got huge subdivisions with virtually nobody in them.
I mean, I guess that was a good way to get a home, but it's like,
well,
you run out of people.
Yeah, well, because with the lending laws, basically the builders can circumnavigate the system and just put them in the home. Well, because he's doing sweat equity, so therefore he doesn't need to put it down.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and then the Democrats refused to force people to, the Democrats basically conspired with Republicans. It was the Democrats that led the charge under Clinton to put as many people into homes as you could in this nation, whether they could afford the home or not. So they made the down payments. No down payment, no credit check, nothing.
No credit check?
Nope.
Really?
Do you think you could get into a home in Brentwood if you worked in McDonald's if you had a credit check?
Oh, that's true. How in the world did they get in there? They couldn't even afford the first month.
They were, okay, they dumped the rates down for the first X amount of years down
Oh,
to
those teaser loans.
the teaser loans.
Where it's pay like 3% interest and then
Yeah.
it's on a, yeah.
Well, basically, a lot of them were no interest, like $300 or $400 a month things for the first X amount of time.
Really?
What happened was
I should have gotten it.
what the bubble burst because the Democrats decided to attack the oil companies, and everybody was afraid that the oil was going to go up to like $200 a barrel, like $7 a gallon. And when that happened, the banks started calling in the money that they basically could by law because the people, what happens is that a bank can within 30 days call in any loan.
Well, see, part of the challenge is because people were getting the loans so easy, is people were spending a lot more for the homes than they were worth.
Yeah.
Right? Because, right, so many people could afford it, so you could bid up more. And so people ended up in homes, like he said, like they couldn't afford.
They could afford it. I can guarantee
Never could have.
that the building that is next door to this one is a couple $100,000 in the hole. We know two buildings down the street that are basically couldn't give away because the owners are so basically upside down on them. But virtually, I think the average person is upside down by about 25 to 40% of their homes now.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Because they were talking, I mean, I know I've talked to real estate people and it's like the reason they do short sales is because, okay, if you're under like $150,000 on your house, it takes you a long time to pay back $150,000.
Yeah.
But usually what happens is people think that the market just corrects itself and then...
But the market's not correcting itself. It can't correct itself at the moment because Obama's grand plan on foreclosures, which he and the whole White House economic staff are running around like chickens with their heads cut off trying, don't do this, don't do this. They're telling, Democratic, but see, you got all these attorney generals running for re-election this year in the Democratic Party, and basically like Beau Biden, who basically didn't want to run for Senate because he didn't think he could win it. He didn't think he could win his father's seat. Well, what we hope to get out of this foreclosure investigation is forcing the banks to renegotiate the loans and to where people that are in them can afford them, and then the banks would just absorb the losses. Well, who owns the banks? The American people do, which means you're giving somebody, people that are working hard to pay their mortgages in their house are now paying under Biden's plan, which a lot of the Democratic attorney generals like, which Obama tried to get through, but they couldn't get through. Basically, you're going to be paying for your neighbor's house. Well, you can barely pay for yours, so...
well, that's what they were trying to get through before.
I know.
You know what I mean? Kind of, and then everybody was really upset about that.
There's a massive outrage over the foreclosure thing. The people that are paying for the homes are pissed off about Obama's administration going to allow people... They no longer have to make payments, period.
They don't?
Nope.
See, here's the challenging part, because they don't have to make payments, right? And you still have to make payments and you're paying for this. What happens to the housing market?
It basically, the housing market
comes to a halt.
It comes to a halt, but it drops the price of the other houses because, and then it also forces you, if you're barely able to make your payments, as they say, the one guy said, why the hell should I make payments on my house? Because you know that it freezes the market for they said 6 months to 2.5 years. The foreclosure market is now froze, which means those houses are just sitting there. They're not bringing money in for the banks. The banks are actually owned by the people, folks. I mean, Bank of America is not owned by a bunch of guys in the boardroom. They're owned by your mothers, your fathers, your sisters, unions.
I know, they forget about that when they keep on thinking the fat cat bankers and the fat cat Wall Street people.
Those fat cat people are the guys that are the front men for the business. They're the ones that know how to make the money. Because, I mean, can you imagine if can you imagine the Congress of the United States trying to run a loan operation? Well, actually, if you see Freddie Mae,
well, yeah, I was going to say, it's like...
These guys can't run the post office. So they can't make the trains run on time. They didn't even read health care, because now people are reading it. That's a disaster. But this is the way it works. These people all have an expertise, which is why they're being paid. They're not being paid not to do stuff. This is all salary and bonuses.
Yeah.
And they say, well, these guys got $100 million and the company's bankrupt. Well, not their division wasn't bankrupt. Their division made tons of money. And they said, well, these people made money off of screwing people, you know, on home sales. Well, no, they didn't. They made money buying the titles from other people. The original loans were not made by the Wall Street bankers. The original loans, more than likely, were not made by Bank of America or Chase Manhattan or Wells Fargo or Union. They were made by someone like Countrywide. They were made by a little fly-by-night organization. They made the loans.
And then there was a secondary market where they're reselling the loans.
And the secondary market is now officially dead because of Barack Obama.
But see, part of it is even though they have your loan, that's why, you know, a lot of people, they're like, well, we want to renegotiate our loan, but who do we renegotiate with?
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times it had to do with whoever you're paying the money to.
Yeah, whoever you're paying the money to. It is a unique piece of stuff. I mean, I don't have it in my pocket, but I could basically show you an example of who owns the, and we'll go off camera. Yeah, look at this one.
Like who
an
owns
example.
what?
Who owns the home? It's the person that has the last piece of paper in their hands, the title. That's who owns the home, folks.
So no matter who else you think owns it.
No, it's why you have title searches, because sometimes the actual piece of paper is in God knows who many's hands. You do a title search to figure out who has the actual piece of paper. And who has the piece of paper may not be the one you're paying the money to. But the people you're paying the money to are basically shipping the money off to the person who has it. A lot of banks act as basically agents for the real owners of the paper. That's how it works. You know who could be the real owner of the paper?
Your mother.
Yeah. Teachers' unions.
Yeah.
Pension funds. You'd be surprised. It's like we were talking before the delivery people came with our tickets to a major Sony event tonight, folks. How could you get a concert provided by Sony, which is funny. But they were talking about, you would really be surprised at how many titles are sitting in the vaults of pension fund companies. It helps provide them income for the people on pensions.
You know what, it just made me think, you know, you had the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
It's a huge building.
They lost all that stuff. They lost all those titles.
Right. So
basically what had to happen is they had to do title searches for everybody. Okay, people, they had no place to send their money to, so people are just sitting on things waiting for somebody to figure out who owned what. Some businesses were totally wiped out, so you can guess that for years nobody was paying anything to anybody because there was no interest in doing, okay, unless you were some real idiot, you didn't send money into the World Trade Center businesses.
Could you imagine?
Because what would happen then, they would then force somebody to have an invest. Why are you sending this money? So then they start an investigation. But a title search is basically something that you have to pay for to make certain that you actually own, that the people that are selling the properties, a lot of times the people, okay, they'll sell homes, they don't actually own the home simply because they live in the home. They're making the payments on the home, but they don't actually own the home, and the people they're paying the money to don't own the home.
Yeah, because see, part of it I've heard before where people actually were renting a home and sold the home.
Yeah. Because...
which actually sounds like a total disaster to me.
No, but I guess when I was young, my father basically, after World War II, basically people were really in the housing boom. My father and my grandfather, who was in the painting business, they built a custom thing for and the people that were going to buy the home. They said, you know, we're selling the home that we're in, and that's going. We're going to sell. It was a really good deal. They were selling the home they were in for twice the amount of money that it was worth, and then they were going to move into the new home, and then they have to come, and the guy found out we don't own the home. And my father, what do you mean don't own a home? Well, we thought we owned the title, and we don't own the title.